One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Okay, so before we get started today and dive into all the goodness that I have to share in today's episode, I wanted to tell you about something really special. So I've been working on something behind the scenes that I think you're going to be pretty excited about, because if you've ever heard me talk about my digital course, Profit Podcasting, or my membership, The Potty People, well, you might just be interested to know that I'm creating a brand new program that smashes the two of those together. Yes, we're taking the best pieces of profit podcasting and the community aspect of the Potty People, and basically we're setting it all on fire and coming in blazing with a brand new program. And I'm so excited. So to learn more, go to crystalprofit.com/waitlist. I don't have all the details to share with you just yet, but if you want to get notified as soon as the new program is available, then you want to get on our waitlist. So again, go to crystalprofit.com/waitlist to find out all the details as soon as they're ready. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Okay, so I want to start today's episode with a question. And that question is, do you ever come across people in your community, in your day-to-day life, and in your online business where you're just like, oh my gosh, I see so much of my own story in your story? Because that is exactly what we're dealing with here today. I am so excited to share with you this incredible conversation with another entrepreneur who has been on the roller coaster journey and knows exactly what it's like to start an online business. So let's get right to it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, because if you've been trying to figure out the world of podcasting, Think of this show as the time-saving shortcut you've been looking for. So let's get right to it, shall we? So like I said in the beginning, I always get super excited whenever I meet with fellow entrepreneurs who have had kind of a roller coaster experience. And today's guest, Sarah Rose, was so much fun to chat with. And it's funny because I feel like whenever we hopped on our initial interview, I was like, I feel like we've been kind of running in the same circles, like kind of orbiting around each other. And I felt like I kind of already knew what she was all about and everything. But we just had such a genuine conversation about what it's like to have an online business and what that journey can look like. So I hope you walk away from today's conversation with Sarah with a little bit of a different perspective on how you can pick yourself up whenever you get knocked down, but that it doesn't always have to be the hardest thing whenever you're creating your online business, but it's also not sunshine and rainbows. We try to bring the whole realistic perspective on what it's like to have an online business, how to grow it. But let me tell you a little bit more about Sarah real fast. So Sarah Rose is the Launch Your Online Business strategist, and she mentors entrepreneurial-minded women to transform their dream or side hustle into a lucrative online business. So I won't make you wait any longer. Here's my conversation with Sarah. All right, Profit Podcast listeners, I'm so excited to introduce you today to my guest, Sarah. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me, Crystal. It's my honor and my pleasure to be here today.
Yes, this is so fun. So Sarah is a Texas girl, and it's kind of funny because I was asking, before we recorded, I was like, so, where are you from? What do you do? And everything. And she has moved so many times, so all over the place, but she's a Texas girl at heart. It's one of those things like no one can take that away from you. Is that how you feel about it?
You can't take Texas out of the girl. That's
For sure. Oh my gosh. Well, Sarah, let's just jump right in and tell us a little bit about your story. How did you become an online entrepreneur and how are you doing what you do today?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll try and keep a long story short. So my story is a little bit different than everybody else's. Growing up in Texas, my mom was a single mom of 3 little kids, and she found herself in 6 figures of debt to the lawyers coming out of this situation. And she knew that a traditional 9-to-5 just wasn't going to cut it. And so she decided to become a pioneer in the network marketing industry. So she went on to create a multiple 7-figure income in that industry, and became sort of my mentor to show me what's possible in life when you decide to go all in and when you choose the path of being an entrepreneur. It's not always easy. It's not always fairy tales and unicorns, and there is hard work and sweat and tears and grit, shall we say, that's got to go into it. So I followed her on her path. She's now top level coach, sought after all over the world, speaker, author, trainer. And I saw the lifestyle and the flexibility and the freedom that having your own business allows you. So I went with that company, built to a top level position, and then the company changed hands and it just wasn't ethical anymore. And I thought, you know what, this isn't for me. I'm ready for another chapter of my life. So I decided to go into interior design, which is another passion. And that's when I met my husband, Neil, who's also an entrepreneur. We had our daughter, Sophie, and decided I would stay home. And life was really good. Life was fine. Kind of grew into this complacency, sort of, just floating along through life until we were hit with a financial disaster and we lost just about everything. So that was not fun. It was a really dark time, and I found myself having to go back to work. And it was like history repeating itself, right? Like seeing my mom have to kind of start all over and create something out of nothing. And I knew a traditional 9-to-5 wasn't going to cut it in our financial situation. And I didn't want everything I earned to go to childcare.
Right. Yeah.
I wanted that flexibility to be with my daughter and not to miss any of those precious moments. And I know you can relate as a mom.
100%. Yeah.
Can you imagine not being there, right? So I had to go sort of off the beaten path and figure this out myself. And so I aligned with another network marketing company, global company that I'm still with. I built it to a pivotal position, but then I plateaued. And I burned out really hard on the traditional ways of doing things. And I went, you know what? I've got to take a step back and learn the modern ways of marketing. It's not my background is marketing. It's not anything technology wise. Like that's just not ever what I knew. And especially taking that break during that time of being a stay-at-home mom, so many things had changed and I didn't know anything. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
So last year I just took a big step back. I invested in coaches and mentors and programs, and it was terrifying, but I knew it was the only way forward. And I threw myself in head first and ended up falling in love with the process. And that's when I decided that, there must be other women out there who are looking to start or scale a business, but they don't have a marketing background. They're looking for these strategies to come together. And that's how I started my coaching business. So now I run both businesses under one brand, and it's just so much better and more fun.
That's so awesome. Oh my gosh. So Sarah and I, we were talking before we started recording about saying how grateful we were to be in an online space with all the things that have unraveled in 2020. So how has that really, did you see any kind of ups or downs in your business specifically related to what's gone on in 2020?
It's remarkable. The timing of things, it's like divine timing. I can't believe that I started to learn this information and put it together when I did, because my network marketing business doubled in lockdown. My coaching business doubled. I launched a new program out of that. So, there's just been so much growth this year. It's been incredible. I feel so grateful.
Crazy.
Like you said, it's like,
it's so crazy to just to imagine that if it was 2 years ago or something, or even 5 years ago, and you didn't have this kind of training, and then it happened, and then I would feel like a duck in water. It's like, okay, what do we do next?
Well, that devastating time of being in that financial crisis was like training,
Right.
out of that, thank God I started on this path when I did, because, you've got to take control of your financial future. You can't depend on anyone else for your financial well-being and your financial health. You've got to take that control as a woman, especially. I love my husband. He's amazing and he works hard too. And he's found his new way forward, but I will never, ever, ever again not take responsibility for my financial health.
Right. And I love that, the optimism and seeing the silver lining of if you go through a struggle and it's like, okay, what can I take from this? What can I learn from this? So that's so good. I love the glass half full perspective on, hardships and hard times, because we all go through them, but it's, what you do with them afterwards that can really, shape your future. But I wanted to dive in. So Sarah, I know that you have learned a lot of new things on your journey, right? Like maybe you didn't have all the technology and the social media strategy and all these other things. And people that are listening to this show on a regular basis are really trying to understand. Maybe there's people listening that are just nodding their head along. You're telling your story and they're like, oh my gosh, Sarah, I'm in your exact position right now. What kind of advice, where should someone get started if they are thinking about pivoting to having an online business? What kind of advice would you give for them? Just what is step one?
Well, it's a great question. And when you're in it, when you're standing in the fire, you can't see the opportunity that's around you. You don't realize how resourceful you are. You're coming from a place of lack and desperation and fear and worry and anxiety and even resentment and rage. And so I encourage you to listen to Abraham Hicks and learn the lesson of how can you just reach for the next better feeling. Maybe that feels like frustration, but frustration is better than rage, right? And then when you're just feeling frustrated, it's like, okay, how can I turn this frustration into fascination and start asking myself more powerful questions? What do I need to learn today? What do I need to do today to take action towards making better choices in the future? What is the lesson here that I don't have to keep learning it over and over and over again until I freaking get it, right? So for me, that's a long-winded answer to your question. I would say get a business coach. And if I had it to do all over again, looking back, I would be like, girl, do it today, pull the trigger, get it done. Because I spent years of time, energy, finance, trying to figure things out myself. And I would have been so much further along had I have just figured out the resources for hiring a business. I didn't have the money, flat out.
Yeah.
So, when it came to the time where I went, either I've got to do this or I'm going to be in the same place a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I sold stuff around my house. I doubled down on my network marketing business. I borrowed the money, but I made it happen. And everything just came together from that. The clarity that you get when you're handed like this blueprint, right? That you can put your spin on it and go out and do the thing. And then it's like, this makes so much sense now. Than trying
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a similar story in that, I stayed at home for a long time and I just dabbled and tried to do several different things. And it wasn't until I stumbled upon someone who had the success that I didn't even know I wanted. I was just super impressed with like this idea of creating an online business and having the freedom to, make your own terms on how it's set up, how often you work, if you work with a team, if you don't work with a team, if you do it remotely, if you go into an office, like all the things that was super appealing to me. And it was investing in myself and in those coaches that has made all the difference. So I 100% agree with all of that. And I think that, going back to coaching, what do you think is great advice for someone who's like, well, I think I want to get a coach, but how do you even do that? Like it's almost like the nesting eggs, right? Where you're just like, okay, there's just so many things to figure out. Like now you are talking about coaching, like where would I even get started? What do I look for in a coach? So what would you say to someone who's thinking about that?
That's a great question too. I would say look for something that's a one-stop shop. So I was talking to an ideal client this morning. She's coming on board in my program tomorrow morning. She just had to kind of tighten up a few screws, right? But basically she's taking 5 courses right now. She's taking a course on branding. She's taking a course on creating your funnel. She's taking a course on mindset. She's taking a course on this. So for me, I wanted a high ticket mentorship where it was a blend of being able to learn on my own time or on my other commitments, because I am running another business. I've got a child that I'm helping distance learn with all this COVID craziness. So I needed something I could do on my own time. I also wanted all the pieces of the puzzle in one place. I didn't want to have to go here for this and there for that. I don't have the brain space for that, right? I needed just something simple, easy, and to the point. I also loved that it was a blend of group coaching where we'd get on a call once a week with our questions and we'd get them answered, Facebook group, and then some one-to-one coaching blended in. So I loved that model. That's what worked for me, and that's now how I run my program as well. But I would
I love that.
definitely go for a one-stop shop and somebody walk the walk so they can talk the talk. And that's when you just read a book and all of a sudden they're a coach. Like find somebody who's invested in themselves and done the work.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants. Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
Well, Sarah can see me right now. I like kind of cringed a little bit whenever she said someone who's actually done the work, because you all know those people that are just like, they're like, okay, I did this one thing one time and now I'm the expert in everything. And you're just like, oh, no. You have not gotten the results that I want to get. Are you? So like, that's my disclaimer for whenever you're looking for an awesome coach, make sure that they have gotten the results that you're looking for. And they do walk the walk and talk the talk, because it is so important. It's so important, especially in like today's day and age of, there's a lot of people that just kind of pad their numbers, or they say, I've gotten this, I've gotten that. Ask for proof, ask for referrals, ask for testimonials from previous clients. Like, that's my disclaimer whenever it comes to coaching, because that is so true that people can absolutely take advantage. Like, we are rooting for y'all. Like, if you're listening to this, we're rooting for you. We want to see you create an amazing online business, and we don't want you to fall prey to someone who's trying to take advantage of people just like you.
For sure. I mean, the other part of that too is that I would never ask my team or my clients to do something I'm not willing to do myself. So if I'm like, okay, you got to get out there, you got to be consistent, you got to put yourself forward, you got to show up every day, and I'm not doing that, then I don't really know what I'm talking about, right?
Right, for sure.
So yeah.
Well, speaking of showing up, I wanted us to really take the conversation towards social media, because this is where so many people listening are like, okay, I'm going to figure out this podcasting thing. And I realize in order to reach people, I have to talk about it, right? And I have to get on social media. And some people listening are starting out with zero audience. And some people are saying, okay, I have a little bit of an audience, but there's just people out there who are much bigger than me and they're better than me, and I'm just starting out. So can you give us a few tips and strategies for how we can stand out on social media when we're just getting started?
Oh my God, how long do we have?
Right.
This is my jam. Gosh, well, I would just say put your boat in the water wherever you are now. Everybody had to start somewhere. Everybody had to start with 0 email subscribers. Amy Porterfield didn't start off banging with 50K subscribers or whatever. She had to start with 1 and build from there too. So, well, maybe not a good example, because she did have some great resources that might not be available to everyone, but you know what I mean? We all have to start somewhere. So I would say just, put your boat in the water and just figure out what do those next steps look like. It is visibility on social media, because if you're not putting yourself out there and consistently, then nobody knows where to find you. Nobody knows what you do. And yeah, there are 1,000 other, billion other people doing what you're doing. So you've got to rise up and stand above the noise and show people why you're the expert in your field and why they would want to work with you. There's a thing called imposter syndrome, where you're like, well, I'm not making 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures. Why would anybody listen to me? How do I know what I'm talking about? Well, you've lived your life that nobody else can live. You have your gifts. You have your way of teaching or sharing or telling your story. And your story could be the lifeline for somebody else that's going through something that you've already been through. So you're extending this sort of you're bridging the gap from where they are to where you could be. And even if you think you should be this gazillionaire or whatever before you can give advice or put yourself out there as someone who's an expert or knowledgeable, just start somewhere, and you can be vulnerable and be like, I'm just kind of starting my journey. I'm really excited about this, and take your audience with you along this journey. And let them watch you grow. So you may just have friends and family that are on your Facebook or your Instagram. That's okay. It's I'm not sure if I love the words "act as if," but it's more of a if you build it, they will come. Chicken and egg sort of thing, right? So if you have 0 content, you've not been showing up, and all of a sudden you want to start networking in groups, which is my favorite strategy, and where you and I connected, Crystal. I'm pretty sure. I think so, in a podcasting group. And so let's say that you're going into this podcasting group, you're kind of commenting on posts, you're putting yourself out there, you're making some new connections, starting some conversations. Well, before somebody's going to send you a friend request or connect with you, we're all snoopers, right? They're going to come to your page and see, is this somebody who resonates with me? Is this somebody I want on my podcast? Is this somebody I want to be on their podcast? I want to check out their world and make sure this is something I want to be a part of. So if I come to your page and I don't know what you do and there's no clarity and there's pictures of you and your cat and you going to Disney World, and then I'm like, well, does she sell trips to Disney? Is she a vet for cats? Is she, does she even have a business? And this is something that drives me crazy. I see so many people doing this, posting about the clouds and the beautiful sunset, and it needs to be congruent. It needs to be coherent. You need to have clarity so that when people come to see who you are and what you do, it's very clear. And they're like, okay, this is totally somebody that I can work with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I was just thinking about how you and I connected. So actually, Sarah reached out to me through email and she was like, "Hey, Crystal, and you said why you thought you'd be a great fit to chat on the podcast. And you gave some awesome topics that we could talk, and I was like, Sarah Rose, like, why do I know this name? Why do I know this name? And so I did. I went straight to social media and I was like, okay, I think that was on Facebook. So I went to Facebook and I'm like, what? And I was like, Sarah and I are friends. Like we connected somewhere in a group a long time ago. And I think that I would see your information pop up in my feed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I know exactly who this is. But because we had that instant connection, like as soon as I saw your name, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, she would be a perfect fit. She already had great ideas and I could dig a little deeper. I went to your website and saw all the things. But if that wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have felt as confident in saying, I don't know if this person's right for the podcast. I don't know if we are on the same page. I don't know exactly what she does. So I 100% everything that you just said is applicable to how you got on the show today. So yeah, I agree 100% with everything you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing too, is that the business is all about making connections, because there's this whole term solopreneur, and I can't stand that term because nobody can rise by themselves, whether it's having a team or other women who can lift you higher. And that's why it is my favorite strategy is networking in groups, because you're connecting and making these collaborations where I can come and share value on your podcast, and then you share out about my Business Accelerator Academy, and we're rising together. We're building each other up and creating partnerships and strategic aligned relationships and even friendships that can carry on to who knows what else, book collab or a retreat or something like this. And there's always more and more possibilities, but you've got to expand your circle and your network and position yourself as the expert. Be vulnerable, share your journey. And if we have a minute, I'll share with you the 4 E's.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. Go for it.
So when it comes to creating content, first of all, you want to figure out who is your ideal client. So who are you talking to? Because if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody, and your message gets diluted. Or deleted. And deleted.
Right.
Words there. So figure out who are you talking to? What is the problem you're solving? What are some of their pain points? And then you're going to structure all of your content, all of your posts around the 4 E's, speaking directly to that ideal client or team member. Okay. So the first E, because people come to social media for these 4 things. They don't come to be sold. They don't come to buy something. They want to come and be entertained, educated, empowered, and engaging. So let's unpack those, right? First of all, entertaining. Be yourself. If you're silly or have some quirky sense of humor, or something made you laugh, or something funny happened today, share that. Because if you're all business all the time, people aren't really going to be taken behind the scenes into your world and what it would be like to work with you, and that you are fun and you are not just strictly business all the time. You have a life, right? So entertaining is the first one. Second one is empowering. So share your journey, share your story. If I can do this, so can you. If I could overcome this, so can you. And here's who else I'm helping to overcome these challenges, and empowering others that this is possible for them too. Third one is educational. And that is educating people on what you do, the problem you solve, and adding value as to how you can help them, your social media strategies, your mindset strategies, your podcasting strategies, your networking strategies, leadership skills, closing skills, sales, objections, whatever is your strong point, share those tips. Because imagine if somebody's sharing this information with you for free, what you can get from them if you actually invested in working with them, right? So that's going to be what sets you apart from everybody else and makes you stand out as the expert in your field. So bye-bye imposter syndrome, because now people are like, I love her stuff. She's talking to me, right?
Right.
And then number 4 is engaging. So if you're just starting off in business, you don't really know who your audience is yet. So go into groups and go on your personal page and set up a business page that can just mirror your personal page. And engage, ask questions of your audience. So where's everybody hanging out? What's everybody watching on Netflix? What do you want to see more of from me? Mindset or business strategy? find out what they want and then give them more of it. Do you remember the Tiger King? Like during
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Oh,
So
yes.
I kind of put out there like a little fishing rod, and I was like, okay, I bet, I'm all in. I'm watching it. Like, who else is watching this? Well, I mean, it just blew up because everybody was watching it, right? So every now and then I'll pop like a meme and, something silly that's entertaining because I know my audience is watching the Tiger King. So, give them more of what they like. Find out what works, what doesn't work. Test it. It takes some time to find out what's going to start taking. But if you don't show up at all, you ain't got a business.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. That's going to be the quotable for this one. It's like, if you don't show up at all, you ain't got a business for sure. That's the Texas in us right here. That's you ain't got a business. I love it. But it's so true. And that's actually how I got started with my business. I don't talk about that a lot, but man, I didn't have a lot of money to invest in my business, but I had some sweat equity. I had some time equity that I was like, I know that if I go into these Facebook groups where my ideal customers, my ideal audience, the people I think that I want to talk to, because like you said, if you're starting, you may not even know exactly who you want to serve. And my ideal customer has absolutely evolved over time, but I started just answering questions. I used the search feature in the Facebook group and I'd type in my keywords and I'd say, oh, I can answer that question. I can help someone. And I didn't ask for anything in return. I just like offering value. Like that's one of the cornerstones of what we talk about here is like value, value, value. How can I show up and just serve people? Because I don't know if this has been your experience, but I've learned so much just by answering questions in an authentic way. And there's definitely ways that people try to skirt around this and be kind of spammy. And they're like, oh, well, I'll send you the link to my program and da da da. And I'm like, go away. This is like, you're ruining it for everybody else. Right. And I'm sure it's kind of like network marketing. Like there are some awesome network marketing companies, but there's those few out there that ruin it for everybody.
Totally.
It's like, don't be spammy, guys. Don't do it.
No. And attraction marketing is so much more fun because you're not out there being the one sending the friend request and sending the opening message and following it up with a spamming link. I mean, I don't even send a friend request anymore.
Yeah.
I'm getting friend requests every single day and followers on Instagram. I've just grown my Instagram following by 1,000 in the last 5 or 6 weeks, and all organically. So become the hunted, not the hunter.
I like that.
And it's just so much more fun. It's so much easier. And then you get calls booking every day because you're having these conversations with people who are your ideal client who want to work with you. They're coming to you because they love your stuff rather than you having to go and hustle, grind, slay, and repeat, that old wives' tale.
Yeah. It's not what you have to do. It's not what you have to do. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I love it. Well, I want to go back to something that you said earlier before we were talking about the 4 E's. You had said something about, putting yourself out there as the expert. And I know there's a lot of our podcasters that are like, they're walking that fine line of imposter syndrome and not quite feeling like the expert. They're like, well, I have enough, of, a little bit of content to kind of get me through launching my podcast and just getting it out there. But they still have this hesitation of looking at what everybody else is doing. So if someone is sitting here, whether it's thinking about their podcast, thinking about starting the social media, what would you say to them if they're constantly kind of looking at what everybody else is doing?
Stop it. Who cares?
Quit it. I felt like you just gave me a slap on the wrist. Stop it.
Stop it. Stop. Like unfollow, mute, turn it off. And also like set a timer on your phone and put it away. Put it on airplane mode. Turn the volume off. Turn it upside down and don't look at it for X amount of time, whether that's 15 minutes. If you're like totally ADD and all over the place, like just go, I'm not doing that for 15 minutes. I'm just going to get into my creation, or I'm just going to get into some content, or I'm just going to get into doing some follow-ups or setting up this account or connecting these tools or researching this or, whatever, and do that thing for that allocated amount of time. The other thing that I don't do anymore is I don't scroll around on social media. I just don't. And I used to, because I thought I would find the clue. I thought I was looking for answers, and I was like, if I just scroll one more hour, like,
Yeah.
it will come to me and it'll pop up in a post. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's just a waste of time. So, yes, if you have ideal clients and people that you're in relationships with, you can go onto their page and engage with their stuff. But as far as like this whole scroll thing, it's just a waste of time, and time is short. You don't have time for that crap.
I love that you said that, because I recently found myself, I don't do a lot of scrolling either. Like, I go and I check out my notifications. I follow up with people, that have commented and do things like that. But there's there's a purpose. I go there, I fulfill my purpose, and then I hop out. I'm like, I'm in and I'm out. Like, it's almost like traffic, like coming at you. I'm like dodging everybody. I'm like, nope. I'm just here to get my one thing, and then I got to go. I'll see you later.
Yes. Well, to get and to give, we're talking about giving so much value. And so we are showing up in groups. We're networking in groups. We're meeting people in groups. We're creating collaborations in groups. We're putting value out there on our pages. But it's just not necessary to look for the clue there. It's not there.
Yeah, I love it. So just a little bit of intentionality behind it, and then that can go a long way. I love it so much. Well, Sarah, this has been so awesome. Are you up for some rapid fire questions?
Bring it, girl. I love it.
All right. So I have a few for you today, and I promise they're not embarrassing and they're not crazy. But my first one, and we've kind of touched on just being new to a lot of things today. So what advice would you give to a brand new podcaster? And I'm going to put a little spin on it. A brand new podcaster that hasn't put themselves fully out there yet, whether it's social media or promoting in other ways. What advice would you give to them?
It's so much easier than like truth or dare, or would you rather?
That could be fun though. Hang on. I'm like, maybe we need it. No, not this time. Maybe next time.
We'll do another one of these. I have a feeling. Well, one of my favorite quotes in the world, and this has gotten me through a lot of difficult times, is from Joseph Campbell, the great author, Joseph Campbell. And he says, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek." So whatever you're afraid of doing, that quote just gives me chills every time. Whatever you're afraid of doing, that's the thing that you need to do. So whether that's getting into some live video, whether that's getting into some content creation, whether that's finding consistency, whether that's creating a daily method of operation for your business of where and how you need to be showing up, do the thing that needs to be done, because that's where all the good stuff is going to happen. That's where the results are going to come. Get outside your comfort zone. Like, you're never going to get anywhere if you just stay stuck. You're not a tree. You can move.
Oh, I love it. That's great. That's awesome. Okay. My next question is a two-part question. So who would be your dream podcast to be on? And if you had a podcast, which I know you do live video interviews too. So who would you love to interview live? Like, who's a dream guest?
Oh, that's a good question. I will have to have you on my show, the Business Accelerator TV. I love Catherine Zankina. I don't know if you know her. She's the manifestation babe.
I don't know who that is. Tell us about her.
Love her stuff. She's multi 7-figure earner. She's young. She's in her 20s, I think, or early 30s. And she was living on her grandmother's couch, trying to figure out her next chapter in life. And she just went all in, invested in coaches and mentors, even though she didn't have the money. She put it on a credit card and was like, I'll figure it out later. And she went all in, and now she's just like the bomb diggity. I love her stuff.
I love it. I love that you just said the bomb diggity. Like, that just made me love you more. That's awesome. I love it so much. I love it so much. I know. I have that effect on people. I bring out their countryside. I love it. Okay. My last question is, do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
No, because I find that done is better than perfect. And I can always go back and tweak and pivot later if I need to, but I need to just get my message out there. Now, this is maybe talking out one side of my mouth and then on the other, because I did go to school for journalism. I love to write, and I am a perfectionist when it comes to editing, punctuation and this, and wording and word construction. I love that. I'm kind of like a nerd when it comes to that. So with that, yes, I also used to be an interior designer. So my brand, I pull that into my branding for myself and my clients. So I want it to be beautiful. I want it to be aesthetic. I want it to be high ticket, high end, attractive, bringing in your ideal client. So from a visual standpoint and a writing standpoint, yes, but I'm not going to stagnate. I'm not going to be in an analysis paralysis position where I'm self-sabotaging and not able to move forward and holding myself back because something isn't exactly right. I can always go back and fix it later.
That's awesome. So you're not going to let those decisions hold you back. I love it. That's so good.
Decision, yes, all in. When it just comes to like the details stuff, a little bit.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Sarah, this has been so much fun today. Yeah, you're going to have to come back on the show, and I would love to be on your show because this was just such a great conversation. But where can everybody, if someone's listening and they're like, oh my gosh, like I want to learn from Sarah, I want to know all the things. So tell us where they can find you and tell us a little bit more about your program.
Awesome. Yes. Well, I'm all over the place as Sarah Rose Global. It's Sarah with an H, Rose like the flower, Global. That's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Pinterest. My website is sarahroseglobal.com. So you can find me pretty easily. I know you'll be popping some links in the show notes too, I think. And my program is the Business Accelerator Academy, and it's a 6-month program. I mentioned it's a blend of self-paced learning where you can go onto a platform and download your guides and your recordings. We have a Facebook group where you can share your work for constructive feedback and ask questions, safe container space, small group, only 25 women at a time. And we do a weekly Q&A on a Zoom as a group. And then you get 2 one-on-one coaching sessions with me to put together your marketing plan and your business plan and your marketing strategy. So it's the Business Accelerator Academy, and I'm really, really excited about it.
That's awesome. And we're, like Sarah said, we're going to put the links to all of these in the show notes. So we will make sure that you get in touch with Sarah. But thank you again so much for coming on the show today. This was so much fun.
My pleasure. It was fun. We'll have to do it again for sure.
So what'd you think? It was such a fun conversation. I hope that you walked away from it with some action items on kind of changing your mindset around what it's like to be an online entrepreneur or to have your own business. Or if you are a brand new baby podcaster and you're like, whoa, I'm not to the point of having my own business yet. I'm just getting started with this podcast. Well, I hope that you took a few things away from this conversation that will help you just have a more well-rounded approach as you start to think about how can I monetize my podcast? How can I help my business grow by using these different strategies that we talked about here today? So make sure you go to the show notes, crystalprofit.com/episode 202 to check out all of Sarah's links, and make sure you go check out her program if you found some value in our conversation today and you think that working with Sarah could be the next move for you. But that does it for today. So if this is your first time tuning in, I am so happy that you're here. I would love for you to subscribe, hit that notification button. That way you are notified every single time we drop a brand new episode twice a week. And I would love it if you would leave us a rating and a review. You can tell us what your number one takeaway was from this episode, or you can tell us what other types of content you want to hear from this podcast. But that's all I have for you today. So remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message, because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, "Send Crystal a text message." And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous, or If you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Crystal a text message, and I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.